This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Also, eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Bedard50 off. Use code Bedard50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Greg, of course, this time of year we have a lot to cover, so let's jump into it. I begin with David Andrews out of respect to David Andrews and what he did for this organization, this franchise. Pretty much everybody loves him to a man and to a woman. Your thoughts on the release of David Andrews?
I don't like it, Nick. I don't like it for a variety of reasons. First of all, being, he was waived with the failed physical designation. Everybody and their mother knew that David Andrews, if you gave him a physical right now, he was going to flunk it. He's coming off shoulder surgery. He's not ready. He's not even sure whether he's going to be back full go at any point. So he's not ready to go. That's the type of thing that you do when you know that you want to move on from somebody. And I'm sure we'll hear more. I don't want to totally overreact to the timing aspect of it because, somebody could say David was away. He was on vacation. We couldn't do it before free agency. He's having a baby, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. Like I said, I don't like this for a variety of reasons. I don't like releasing him into free agency. If you're going to do this and you're going to do it, and obviously they knew they were going to do it, it wasn't because they were like, "Ooh, wait, he's hurt. He has a shoulder injury. Now we got to release him." No, they knew the situation. So why not do this before free agency? Not that I think it would have really changed things because he does have that injury, and I don't know how many teams are going to be clamoring to sign him until he's healthy. But here's the other thing. You don't definitely have a replacement. I would say the leader in the clubhouse for me right now is Ben Brown.
Yeah.
You also have Jake Andrews, who was a 4th-round pick a couple years ago, was hurt all last year. There's the Cole Strange thing. But the more I hear about not only what he put on film, but a lot of the stuff that we talked about Cole Strange, is he going to get the calls? Is he going to get the checks? Is he going to have that ability? There's a lot of question marks around that. So I don't know if the team views him as a center, but what's the harm in keeping David Andrews? You're bringing back the Josh McDaniels offense. David Andrews won 2 Super Bowls as the center in Josh McDaniels offense, at least for the leadership, the knowledge, teaching guys, that whole room's in flux at this point. I don't see the harm in keeping him around. And like, if he can't do it, if he's not any good anymore, David would understand. Everybody would understand if you cut him, I don't know, mini camp, training camp, whatever. But I just don't understand the upside. I don't understand why you would do this. I don't see how this is a win for the Patriots unless there's something going on behind the scenes where Vrabel and Andrews aren't seeing eye to eye, or they don't think he's part of the program. It's hard for me to fathom that, but I just don't understand why. I don't see why they had to make this move.
Just 2 more things about Andrews before we move on, because we got a lot to talk about. The timing bothered me a lot. Mm-hmm. And whether you want to say they could have released him before free agency, on the day of free agency, a day after free agency, whatever. What bothered me was the day you should not announce it is the day that you're having the press conference you had yesterday. Because what you did was you made David Andrews a footnote, which was ridiculous. And the fact that nobody in that building raised their hand and said, "Hey, look, guys, we're going to have all the new faces come in and we're going to do a press conference and we want to celebrate, the first day of free agency." Maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't also on the same day cut one of the most favorite players on this team and a leader and all that stuff. That bothered the hell out of me. Secondly, if you're going to preach culture like Mike Vrabel has preached I've got no problem with preaching culture. I'm cool with culture. We want culture. We want fits. Number one, I don't know who's better when it comes to culture and fit than David Andrews. Number two, and here's the most important thing, Greg. You have to do what you ask others to do. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to ask players to be professional and you're going to ask players to do right by the culture, you have to be professional and you have to do what's right by the culture. And releasing David Andrews on the day that you did is not reciprocating the feel from the players. So if you want the players to treat you well and to believe in this culture, then you best handle guys like David Andrews the right way. And they unequivocally did not by releasing that information on the day they did. And I think everybody in that building should regret that. And if they don't get it. All right, let's get to the. All right,
just one more thing on Andrews. I just wanted to clear up that, like, look, I just want to say that because I heard Ted Johnson on TV last night. I don't know what other people are saying. I haven't had a chance to listen. It's been a busy time, but a lot of people are talking about, like, the decline of David Andrews. I considering what's been going on and what he's been playing, what's been playing around him. I just disagree with that. In my grading, he has come out pretty consistent. Has it gone down a little bit? Yeah. Is this probably a projection of, well, he's not going to get all that much better at his age? Yeah, but like I said, I still think he was really good. I mean, look, he got hurt after 4 games. He only gave up like 5 pressures in those 4 games. The most he gave up, 2023, he gave up 30 pressures. Of course, that's what PFF says. I don't think mine. I have as much as that, but in the previous years for them, it was 13, 18, 12, and 20. Like, I still think he's a good player. I still would have looked at him as an option and see what he is in camp. See him out there. Now, I do think Ben Brown was, he graded out pretty well for me last year as well, and so maybe he wins it out at the end of the day. But I don't see the reason why to make that decision now. I don't think this was, in my mind, this was not a case of David Andrews is shot, he's done. I just disagree with that completely.
The eval's the eval. I don't even care about that stuff. Like that'll come out. We'll figure out if they were right, if they upgrade on Andrews or not. Right. We'll see what their plan is. If Ben Brown does start for them, getting all emotional. Talking about David Andrews here. But we'll see. We'll see if Ben Brown is the answer there, or if they go out and get somebody else. Garrett Bradbury's been talked about an awful lot over the last 24 hours. What you can control is how you handle it, and whether they're right or wrong on the eval, whether Andrews is completely washed or not, you could have done a better job handling it. And I think that was a big fat fail. And again, people in that building, look in the mirror. Because if you're going to ask other people to do things right, look in the mirror. All right, before we move on, Greg wants to talk to you about Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The app is really easy to use. To create a lineup, all you do is pick more or less on a few player stats for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Basketball, you got basketball, hockey, esports, so much more. The second half of the basketball season is here, and the race to the playoffs is heating up on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Don't miss a chance to cash in as the league's best fight for playoff positioning. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, the press conference itself. What'd you think? What'd you think about that press conference? Was it weird? Was it odd? What'd you think?
Yeah, it was odd. It was odd. It was needy. It was what's going on with this organization. Look, I'm not going to totally slam them. Businesses are businesses, but this reeked of the sort of situation where there was some sort of department head meeting at Gillette and in Kraft Group, especially with the Patriots. And they basically said, like, all right, business has been down, like, I don't know, 15, 20%. Everybody needs to come up with an idea to boost revenue or boost attention on the team. And public relations came up with, well, we just spent a lot of money on these guys. Let's trot them out there. Let's get the owner out there. But look, it's a business. I get it. I'm not going to rip them too much for it. But it just seemed forced and needy. But that's where the Patriots are when you're, 8-26 over the last 2 years. And basically since the middle of the 2019 season, the news has been worse and worse. And so, between Vrabel and now the early defensive signings, maybe we'll get to offense at some point. I don't know. Maybe. They're trying to change to use words from the former coach. They're trying to change the page and look forward.
Change the page.
That used to drive me crazy. Like every time he used to say it, I'd be like, no, it's turn the page. It's not change the page. You don't open up a book and change the page. You turn the page.
You never opened up a book and ripped the page out and then replaced it. You glued a new page in. You never did that. You never. Couple things about the presser. To me, it's a big fat nothing burger. I don't find an issue with it. It didn't bother me. It doesn't frustrate me. I don't think it's embarrassing by the organization. A few things. Number one, it's good PR. It's good PR to stand up there and sell your message to the fan base, sell your message to people who work with you, sell your message to the other players on this team in the locker room as far as why you made certain moves. And yes, you could talk to them later on when they all get to town, but it's the good PR of it where you want to send the message that, yes, this is a new era. We're doing things differently. You're selling Vrabel. You're selling Wolf. You're selling Kraft after the terrible report card again. That's what businesses do, and that's what teams do. So I don't have an issue. It's public relations. As far as, Kraft being there, this is nothing new in sports. I don't know why, we would act as if it's new. It's new here, which I'll get to why in a second, but it's not new in sports to have the owner, the GM, and the head coach up there when you spent money on big ticket items. Every time the Celtics make a big move, who's there? Wick Grossbeck is there. Brad Stevens is there. Joe Mazzulla is there. Before John Henry went into hibernation because he's afraid of the media, when the Red Sox made big moves, who was there? John Henry, Theo, Dave Dombrowski, the manager. This is what happens. So to me, it's a nothing burger. This is what franchises do. And it's not just Boston. It's across the country. This is what they do. Sometimes you regret it. I'm pretty sure Jimmy Haslam was at the Deshaun Watson press conference. Oops. Sometimes you regret it. But this is what happens. And the final point is, why are they doing it now? What's happening now? Because Bill Belichick's not here anymore, folks. Do you think if Bill Belichick was here, number one, would they have signed the guys they did? I don't know. But he certainly would not have gone out there and done the PR press conference because that wasn't Bill. And why did they not do that last year? Because they brought all their guys back. they spent the most money on Mike Owenu and Christian Barmore. Are you going to have let's bring in Mike Owenu and have a press conference with Robert Kraft and everybody and act as if this guy is somebody new when we've known him for years? So he's
going to hold up a jersey that says, "We ran it back."
Yeah, like this is much ado about nothing to me. So it didn't bug me one bit.
I will say, I mean, you're right, and it doesn't, I know Felger made a big deal out of it yesterday, and they just like to tweak the crafts, and I don't really have that big of a problem with it, and it's just the bottom line is they're not winning on the field. So they're trying to win off the field until the on the field stuff catches up. Like when they're winning, if you're winning on the field, you don't need to do this stuff. Like you just say, like, look at that trophy and look at that banner. And that's all you really need to do. And I bet, as soon as they get this thing turned around, and I do believe this group is going to get this thing turned around probably in pretty short order, even though I'm sure people are out there like, wait, you kidding me? Have you looked at our roster? Have you looked at all the holes on offense? Yeah, I get it. But they're going to turn this thing around, and I bet you they're not doing this stuff anymore. Plus, hopefully, going forward, they draft well enough where they're re-signing like, Christian Gonzalez and Keon White and Drake May. And that's where they're spending their money instead of every 4 or 5 years having to go out and bring in like, 8 high priced quote unquote free agents. And the other thing I want to say, my takeaways from the thing, stuff that stood out to me, real quick. Number one, if you had any illusions, like this is Vrabel's team. It's Vrabel's in charge. Like they talked about, when Vrabel talked about that, when I forget who it was. I think it was Chris Price asked him about the familiarity with the coaches, with the players. And Mike's like, I don't know how you do free agency any other way. And
Yeah.
I wish I had a solo cam on Elliott Wolf, because last year's free agency, he did it the complete opposite and effed it all up because of that. And so, like, if you needed a snapshot on, if you needed to be told that, or you needed an example, concrete example of who's in charge, and that's different now, and you're listening to the Beatles and the Big Jim Murrays, and you're clutching your pearls over Elliott Wolf and Matt Groh, like that quote just told you everything you need to know, that it's Mike Vrabel and Ryan Cowden and John Stryker and Elliott's around. Matt Groh's moving to contracts. He's out of evaluations. So it's Vrabel's show. And I also wanted to say, and we sort of knew this and talked about it with when the signings happened, but to see it in human form yesterday brought it home. These dudes are just awesome football character guys. And starting with Morgan Moses, who I know you were tweeting about it. I was tweeting about it. I was like, I needed this guy as my life coach.
Yeah.
Like everything he said, he talked, he brought everybody. Carlton Davis won a Super Bowl. Milton Williams won a Super Bowl. That's not an accident. That comes through hard work and brotherhood and all this stuff. And he knew Spillane came in as a tryout guy and worked his way up, and he knew he had 140 tackles the previous 2 seasons, and how that doesn't happen by accident. Like I wanted to take my kids or the players that play for me, and like I'm going to send them that video and be like, listen to this dude. And like, if you want to be something, especially in athletics, listen to this guy. But they were all awesome. Their football characters off the charts, and that's really what it's about. It's about getting the talent up, but it's also about getting the culture up at the same time.
Morgan Moses was tremendous, man. Just so impressive. Just so impressive in so many different ways. If you're worried about Cam Robinson, if you sign Cam Robinson, just put him right next to Morgan Moses in the locker room. And if Cam Robinson can't figure it out sitting next to Morgan Moses, he's never going to figure it out. All right, here's a signing though, Greg. We had some news while you were talking. It's nothing huge, okay? It's nothing monumental, but it's the offensive line. The Patriots have signed Wes Schweitzer to a 1-year deal. If people are wondering, and I'm sure it's most of you going, who the hell is Wes Schweitzer? He's an interior offensive lineman. He was drafted by the Falcons. He's played for the Falcons, the Commanders, the Jets, of course, the Jets. Todd Downing obviously has an idea because he was there last season. I don't know why I'm forgetting the running backs coach's name, but I'm forgetting his name right now.
Tony Deuce.
There you go. Tony Deuce was in New York with Schweitzer last year as well. He has started 62 games in the NFL. He's 31 years old. And the thing that really stands out to me, Greg, is he's played everywhere on the interior. So he started his NFL career as a right guard, started 16 games for Atlanta as a right guard. Then he moved to left guard for Atlanta the next 2 seasons, was a left guard for Washington in 2020. Then he moved back to right guard. But in 2022, he also played center, 7 games at center. He started 6 games at center in 2022. So this is your Nick Leverett of 2025, it feels like. Somebody who, although Schweitzer has more experience at center than Leverett had, thank God, But this is somebody who is going to be that depth piece who can move along the line and give them some help at left guard, right guard, and center. If this is your starting left guard, I'm petrified.
Yeah. I'll just say this. All you need to know, and everybody knows about me with offensive line, and especially like I like to pride myself in, like, I have a decent idea of what's in the division, because you see him twice a week, twice a year. So I watch the film. I have never heard of this guy. Like, and I will say a bulk of his playing time. So in 2020 for Washington, he played 1,000 snaps. And then his rookie year in Atlanta, he played 1,100 snaps. And other than that, especially last year, he played one snap. He played one. Before that, 149. Before that, 419. Before that, 401. I've never heard of this guy. And so, it seems like I need to call up my depth chart. So at guard, so as of right now with the David Andrews thing, I have Layden Robinson and Sidy Sow are my depth chart at left guard. Right now at center, I have Ben Brown, Jake Andrews, Cole Strange. Might move Cole Strange back over to left guard. At right guard, I have Michael Winu, Tyrese Robinson, and Letitia Smith. He can also play a little bit of center. I'm trying to figure out where. I guess as of right now, probably Wes Schweitzer is your starting left guard as of right now. But I think we've talked about this before, Nick, and people just need to understand at a lot of these positions, whether it's center or left guard and possibly left tackle, but hopefully not left tackle, these things are just going to be open competitions. Like, there's no plan where they're like, oh, we're releasing David Andrews, but because we have Cole Strange, and Cole Strange is our starting center. No, they don't know who their center is going to be. They don't know whether it's on the roster right now. And that was a position that they tried to upgrade along. They've tried to upgrade center, left guard, and left tackle in free agency and trades. And to this point, they haven't been able to do it. But for the most part, probably Schweitzer, he's going to be a depth piece, even if he hangs around.
All right, Greg, tell us about Factor before we run through a lot more.
Yes, let me do that. Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has made chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat 2 minutes so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Facto Keto meals based on randomized controlled clinical trial. With Factor Keto, results will vary depending on diet and exercise. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. I can attest to that. When I got my shipment, and I've gotten like 3 of them, they come on time, great packaging. You got the ice pack in there. Everything's ready. It's still cold. It's awesome. And then the meals itself, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The sauces, the seasoning on it, it's off the charts. Everything that I've tried has been awesome, and it tastes good. It's not like other like diet food that's like, stale and gross. This stuff, I'm telling you, it feels like a chef prepared it for you and you got it at a restaurant. It is awesome. I would check it out with this deal. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Bedard50 off and use code Bedard50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Bedard50 off at factormeals.com/Bedard50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
I'm not going to lie, they had us in the first half. After agreeing to terms with the Carolina Panthers, former Eagles defensive tackle Milton Williams decided to pivot to the Patriots after being offered a 4-year deal worth $104 million, making him the 3rd highest paid defensive tackle by average annual value and the highest paid Patriots player by average annual value in team history. Now, there is skepticism over whether Williams can live up to his contract, as he's coming from an Eagles defensive line that was absolutely stacked with talent and was able to rotate players due to their depth. But I'm going to take a look at the stats and the film to prove that Milton Williams can not only be a difference maker as a pass rusher, but also as a run defender and become the key piece to what is going to be a revamped Mike Vrabel defense. Take this third down red zone sack against Falcons right guard Cody Lindstrom. Lindstrom comes out of his stance with both hands out in front, and Milton Williams decides to counter by first swiping to knock the guard off balance, then continuing to swipe away the hands, getting underneath Lindstrom, and taking down Kirk Cousins for a sack. Milton Williams did a full 180 as a pass rusher in 2024. Unfortunately, the same can be said for his run defense, and not in a good way. After ranking top 10 among interior defensive linemen in run stop rate in 2023, Milton Williams graded out as a bottom 10 interior run stopper in 2024.
Make sure to become a Patriots Press Pass member so you'll get full access to this Milton Williams deep dive, as well as all of our other exclusive content.
Don't forget about BSJ. Greg and Mike Giardi do great work over there. $50 for the year. And also Prize Picks. Download that app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, Greg. David Andrews not the only leader of this team leaving that locker room. Jonathan Jones and Deatrich Wise both go to Washington.
Yeah, I mean, look, Deatrich Wise, along with a lot of guys on this team, are just not a fit for this new scheme that is predicated on speed, smaller players. He was, a good player. Same with Jonathan Jones. Awesome guys, awesome leaders. Jonathan Jones, from what I understand, both of his shoulders were shot last year, and he still played through it. And so I think he's coming back from that. And I was hoping that maybe he might have a chance to play like free safety for this team. But they thought otherwise. But good to see those guys get another opportunity pretty quickly. And together, that'll be pretty cool. But they'll totally fit in with what Dan Quinn and those guys are building as far as football character over there. Great Patriots. Sorry to see them go.
Yeah, I mean, great leaders, productive on the field. Apparently, I don't know them personally, but I don't think you'd find anybody to say a bad word about either of those guys. And this is just part of the process. You're gonna ship some dudes out. You're gonna keep some dudes, and unfortunately, those two guys that go along with David Andrews no longer in that locker room. But as Greg mentioned, the press conference yesterday, it's not like they're not bringing in character. They're bringing in plenty of character and culture fit. So, you're just kind of reloading there as far as that goes. Speaking of safety, Mike Reese reported that the Patriots are bringing back Jaylinn Hawkins. I'm surprised. I was hopeful that the Patriots would look at somebody to play free safety with more range, as we've talked about in the past, not to try to force Kyle Duggar and or Jabril Peppers in that spot. Were you surprised?
Yes. I don't rule them out, especially with a possible trade. Going back on some of Vrabel's teams and that defense, you have guys like when they were at their best, especially Kevin Byard on the Bears.
Yeah.
You have Amani Hooker is on the Titans. Those guys are really good players, know this scheme. I wonder, could they become available at some point in time? I mean, but to me, Jaylinn Hawkins is like wallpaper. I mean, he's fine. He's not terrible. You're not going to notice him after a while, but I wouldn't say he got torched a whole bunch last year, but he didn't really make any plays either. I can't think of one Jaylinn Hawkins play that stands out, but maybe my memory's just bad.
Patriots also had another signing, K'Lavon Chaisson, not my new favorite name on the Patriots, replacing I think Sione Takitaki is K'Lavon Chaisson, because I love how it just rhymes. So tell us about Chaisson, the addition. I tweeted Greg that he's a Josh Uche type, right? Like, I'm not telling you
Yep.
he's going to be the same as Uche, but that type of pin the ears back pass rush.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, this is, he's a 6'3", 245-pound, guy. He was a former first-round pick of the Jaguars, of Doug Marrone,
Yep.
with the Jaguars. Never really came into his own. Of course, a lot of stuff was going on in Jacksonville. Played well for the Raiders down the stretch last year. Had like 29 total pressures. He's basically like a Josh Uche type, and he fits in. Again, the addition of him. I mean, I'm just like, I don't think it totally eliminates a guy like Anthony Jennings, but you sort of see what's going on here. I mean, it's I keep wondering like how much longer Jaylinn Tavai is going to be on this roster, because he totally doesn't fit. I mean, good player for the Patriots, and when probably fit better in another scheme. Bentley, I think his days are numbered. Jennings could be, but maybe that's a type of thing where you see what you have in camp with him, how he fits in a new scheme, and then maybe you might deal him or something like that. But definitely moving in some different directions.
Wouldn't hate them drafting an edge, because it's pretty deep in the draft. Some guys you can get on day 2. You can even get maybe a guy on day 3. I like the idea of you're starting Landry, you're starting Jennings. To me right now, Chaisson more of the substitutional rotational guy. And then you draft a young dude that you can hopefully develop underneath Landry and Chaisson and Jennings. And now next year, when you move on from Chaisson, inevitably, that young guy is ready to take a bigger role. And then at that point, if you haven't said goodbye to Jennings just yet, maybe you say goodbye to Jennings, depending on who that draft pick is. So I think they could still draft somebody. It was a smart move. It's depth at the edge. They needed it. I was looking at Azeez Ojulari. Same kind of idea here. All right, let's get to the questions that people are probably screaming at us for not getting to yet. But we had a lot to cover, so get off our back. What's going on at left tackle?
I really don't know. I mean, let's just not even focus it just on left tackle. I mean, and I sort of, hinted at this at the top. I mean, look, this free agency so far is exactly what Bill Belichick would have done. I mean, go hot and heavy on defense. And look, there are reports that they went over the top. Adam Schefter said that the Patriots were prepared to go to $28, $29, $30 million a year for Chris Godwin. I don't know how much I believe that. And, how is it structured, especially with how the Patriots do things? I mean, like their Milton Williams contract is like, to me, it's almost borderline embarrassing. How much would the Pro Football Talk said it was the most money tied up in per game roster bonuses in a contract since like 2022. So I don't want to say like they're not trying to spend money on, and they were prepared to go. Like we said before free agency started, the Patriots were going to go hard after Ronnie Stanley, and they were going to go hard after Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
And they did that, but stuff happens. And, Stanley didn't want to leave Baltimore, so he re-signed. Godwin didn't want to leave Tampa and Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans and warm weather and no income tax. And, I don't blame him for that. But, you look at it right now, left tackle, left guard, center, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. So far, Bupkis. And I know Vrabel said, he basically hinted that they're going to still be trying on trades. And I believe them. And I know that they're trying to do that. But as of right now, I think what's happening, if this is a guess, I don't have any information, Cam Robinson is overpricing himself.
Yeah.
He knows the market. He knows he's the last like real option at left tackle. He knows the Patriots have a gaping hole at left tackle. And he's saying, I want X, Y, and Z. And the Patriots are like, nope, we really want 1 year, $8 million per game roster bonuses. We don't really trust you. We want to put that carrot out there. that you need to a prove it deal, and we'll see whether they come together. Now, if it was up to me, I'd be like, forget Cam Robinson. I'm going forward with Bedard in the draft and whatever else I can find. But I think they're in a staring contest at this point.
I'd sign Cam Robinson. I wouldn't go overboard. Like, I wouldn't give him 15, 20 million guaranteed. I wouldn't go crazy. Inevitably, you got to trust the intel from Doug Marrone. He knows the guy, right? So, I mean, I'd still sign him. If I could get a deal done, I'd be willing to go 10 million. I would be willing to go 12 million. And yes, it's risky. And yes, he didn't have a great year last year. But prior to that, he was at least an average, if not slightly above average left tackle in the NFL. He's not old. He was also dealing with an injury, according to Mike Giardi last year, which probably impacted his play a bit. Again, there's questions. But I'd bring him in, and I'd put him right next, as I said earlier, to Morgan Moses in the locker room. I'd have a competition between Robinson and Vederian So I didn't feel like I had to do something drastic like drafting Will Campbell at 4 if I wasn't super confident he's a tackle, or maybe reach for a guy in the second round that I might not love. I don't want to go into the draft desperate. And I'd rather have Cam Robinson, who's played the position in the league for a long time, there. And it might not work out, but at least he's there. At least he's a body. At least he's competition for Lowe. And at least you don't feel like you have to be desperate in the draft. As far as wide receiver, here's the thing. And this is the difference, Greg, for me, comparing this year to last year. The Patriots have had options, I think, to add to receiver. And they still have options. And as we're talking right now, Cooper Kupp hasn't signed. All the reporting tells you that Cooper Kupp is willing to sign with a contender, a good team, for like 11, 12 million. He would sign with the Patriots, it feels like. When you read everything, Jeff Howe and Giardi and Andrew Callahan last night saying he's done some research about the New England area, it feels like he'd be willing to come to New England for, let's say, 15 million. I would do it. And I know it's an overpay, but I would do it because he's a leader. He's really smart. He's not completely washed yet. There are metrics that tell you that he has declined. And I understand that. There's no doubt he has declined. But there are metrics that tell you that he's still at least somewhat a decent wide receiver. And he's given you more than what you have in that room right now. So aside from Pop Douglas, and, you could argue Kendrick Bourne with Josh McDaniels. But here's my concern, Greg. It's like they want the perfect solution, almost. You don't go after DK Metcalf because he might not be the right fit culture-wise. But then you have a guy who's going to be a perfect fit culture-wise in Cooper Kupp, but you're unwilling to pay him. This needle is getting very difficult to thread, my friend.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, if we were talking about a borderline guy, like a DK Metcalf, I get it. And I get what they're trying to build. And, like we sort of talked about it before, you gotta start with the foundation. You're building a house, you gotta start with the foundation. And obviously for Vrabel, it's football character, hard work, like all that. That's what he wants, and I get it. And he doesn't want a turd in the punch bowl. Good, yeah, I completely agree with him. But and I don't want to totally indict them. If Bill was here, I know he wouldn't have tried on offense. We know that they tried, so I just don't want to say well, you were in a rush to overpay Milton Williams. And, you sort of overpaid for Carlton Davis, and you overpaid for Robert Spillane, in my opinion, for all of those guys. But, where are the overpays on offense? Are we just, now it's about the deal on offense? This is Belichickian. That's what Bill would do. And here's the other thing about Cooper Kupp. This is the same franchise that 4 years ago, paid Nelson Aguilar $12 million a year. He made $12 million the first year, and then they got rid of him. He made like 10 the second year. 4 years. Cooper Kupp's not worth that. Cooper Kupp's not worth $15 million when you're paying Nelson Aguilar, that bag of rocks, $12 million a year. That was his contract. I just don't get it. I completely agree with you. They have plenty of money They have plenty of cash. I think, to get to the cap level that we talked about, the cash spending. I don't look at the cap. Don't look at the cap. Look at the cash. They have about $60 million to get to the cap this year to spend. 25 of that's going to be on the number 4 pick if they keep it. But you can go over that 21 year when they had that free agency splurge where they had all the cap space. Nobody else did because the cap actually went down that year and the Patriots used it to their advantage. They were $51 million over the cap that year. Right now, so if you do that again, we're talking about $100 million in cash that they have to spend this year, and they're not doing it, and they need to do it.
The number one priority of this offseason, above everything else, we can talk about culture, we can talk about fit, we could talk about defensively improving, and the number one priority of this offseason was to help Drake May. That's the number one priority, is to help Drake May. Protect Drake May, give him people to throw the football to that have actually done it at the NFL level. And there's plenty of time left in this offseason. I'm not going to sit here and say that they have failed the offseason. Again,
right.
Within the next hour, they can sign Cooper Kupp, and then tomorrow they trade for A.J. Brown, and it's okay. Yep. They sign Cam Robinson on Monday, and we're all feeling differently. But I would just like to remind them, I'm sure they know, I would hope they know, the number one priority of this offseason was to help your quarterback. And so far, Mac Hollins ain't it. I like Mac, but he ain't it. Morgan Moses, right tackle, that helps for sure. But we came in saying left tackle, wide receiver. Drake May needs help there. And so far, you haven't done it. And that's concerning. One more thing, Greg, before we say goodbye. Mike Vrabel talked about Alonzo Highsmith yesterday. He called him Zoe. It kind of threw me off. I thought he was talking about Zolak for a second.
Yeah.
But he brought up Alonzo Highsmith in this thing where, Alonzo has told him and told everybody else that, people become available. Let's not worry about it. Here's my concern. Are you depending way too much on other teams to do the work for you? And I'm not saying they haven't tried. I'm sure they've tried. But when you depend on other teams and you depend on the unknown, what could happen in the draft, that to me is concerning, because if things don't fall for you correctly the next month and a half, where are you going to be?
Right. And that's exactly what happened. Basically, that was last year's offseason, which was they had all these plans. We're going to do this. We're going to try to trade. We're going to sign Calvin Ridley. We're going to try to trade for Brandon Ayuk. And, for various reasons, none of that stuff materialized. And look where they left themselves. Like, I agree with Mike. I agree with Alonzo. And I know you do too. That, things are going to happen. But yeah, your point is valid. That they're sort of like waiting on they're waiting on other people to do things to screw up or whatever. And what if that doesn't happen? What are you going to do at left tackle? What are you going to do at center? What are you going to do at wide receiver? Yeah, you just like to I think it's Phil Perry. One of Phil Perry's favorite word is urgency. Like They need to have urgency. I saw the urgency on defense. I don't see much urgency on offense. And again, I think you and I are both in agreement that we have faith in this group, that they are going to make moves. They are going to be better on the field. They are going to be a competitive team next year. I think we both believe that. And I think they will swing a trade at some point for a wide receiver. Of course, I thought that last year, and it didn't happen. I have more faith in this group. I figure that they'll get it figured out on the offensive line between the draft, between bringing in players, between Josh McDaniels and Doug Marrone and Scar being involved a little bit. I think they'll figure all that stuff out at the end of the day, and the Patriots will be more competitive. But, yeah, can we get moving on it? Can we have a little urgency? That would be nice.
There's plenty of time. And yes, I agree with everything you said. I'm hopeful, and I do believe that Mike Vrabel has a clear understanding of what he wants with this football team. and not everything is solved in the first 5 or 6 days. But I don't want, as Greg said, to see this be redo of last offseason where you get to April, you get to May, and you're going, so those plans didn't work. And now we got to hope that Cincinnati eventually says we'll trade T. Higgins, or we can get Brandon Ayuk for like a 4th or 5th round pick because we don't want to overpay for him because of the knee. Or maybe A.J. Brown wakes up one day and asks to be traded. Like, your things need to fall for you a certain way if you get to that point. And that's, if they do get to that point, that's concerning. All right, we're out of here. Enjoy the weekend. We will be back early next week. If there's something big that breaks, of course, we'll be all over it. Until then, bye-bye.